So within a PSAP, it really depends on what your data is. For me, compliance always flows from the data. Defense always flows from the data, honestly, or from the primary function. Um, and so compliance for a PSAP is the function of the data. So, and it varies wildly within a PSAP. So on call handling, generally your compliance requirements are very light. You're not holding CJIS data. You're not holding any kind of criminal justice data. Most of what you hold is public record, depending on the state again. Some of it is private. You should not be, but you have to expect, you're holding PII, personally identifiable information. You should not be, but have to expect, and we do expect, we're holding HIPAA data, right? Because while a call for help, because somebody's having a heart attack is questionably HIPAA, the reality is Joe's having a heart attack, hello, Joe's having a heart attack again. Call taker puts that in the notes, that is HIPAA data.
Well, but through the ambulance service or emergency medical services, and that information goes back to dispatch, right?
But that's dispatch.
Yeah,
Dispatch and call handling are different.
But doesn't, so the HIPAA compliance though
follows the data, right? So that's the critical thing is on the call handling side, yeah, I'm slicing my cake very finely, but welcome to compliance, right? It follows the data. On the call handling side, we treat it as PII HIPAA, right? Because we just assume there's going to be data leakage. Mm-hmm. Formally, should there be, would there, we just assume there's going to be data leakage. You can have PII, you're going to have HIPAA data. Now, as soon as you get to CAD, oh, that's a different story. You will have PII, you will have HIPAA, you will have CJIS, right? Because on dispatch, suddenly you're moving around data that comes from, these sources, to the point earlier, you're moving around data that comes from EMS, you're moving around data that comes from privileged law enforcement access or from FBI database access. And so you've got a very different world of compliance, and that compliance is much more stringent. And so kind of keeping the question of, well, how do you build a compliance wrapper around this, right? You get to records and evidence, you have a whole other level of compliance. So how do you build a compliance wrapper? And this is a challenge. In most situations, we will take what we expect to be in that environment or what we expect to be in that environment kind of plus one step. It's like call handling really shouldn't have HIPAA. I swear it shouldn't have HIPAA. We just assume it has HIPAA. We just take that step. We're going to have HIPAA. It's going to leak in. We're going to have it. CAD, we know we're going to have it. We know we're going to have PII. We know we're going to have. So, do we assume that there's going to be records and evidence leakage? Depends on the deployment. Some cases yes, some cases no. We've got to look at that though and have a firm answer. And this is the key with compliance. You've got to have a firm answer, preferably a technical answer that says we will not have that leakage. And if we do have that leakage, we'll treat that leakage as an error condition. Right. So what you end up with is a wrapper, and what we're seeing more and more, and we're kind of pushing more and more, is to have a consistent wrapper across the entire structure, so that you're never going to see CJIS in call handling, and we would prefer not to sign up to say we're going to have CJIS call handling. It shouldn't be there, but we're going to run a system that could handle it if it was. Right, so we're going to encrypt a system, we're going to encrypt storage, we're going to encrypt what we need, so that if CJIS data were in there, it would be okay. And this is one of the things that comes up very quickly with the cloud, is that as you get into less on-prem systems and more remote systems, clouded systems, it becomes very advantageous to just build it once to a high standard and then run that standard universally. And that's one of the real underappreciated aspects of the cloud, is that you can build to a high standard, and that build process that is frankly very, I don't want to say annoying, it's a lot of work to build not just the technical controls, but the operational controls and do the training controls around that. You only have to do it once. And then in the cloud, if you want to do it for call handling, you do it once. If you want to do it for CAD, you basically just make a copy and you did it already. Right, so you can just kind of wash, rinse, repeat that over and over and over, which is a considerable advantage to getting things to a higher level without having to do the work.